Okay, I am live. I'm waiting for our guests to come on, uh, Ari Harms and Neal Feldman from Jewish Voice for Peace. And here comes Ari. Okay.
Hi.
Ari. Warm greetings. Ari, can you just, let's just see if what your volume is. Just
Okay.
say anything.
Hello, today is Sunday.
All right, that's fine.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
fine. So for the listeners, we're just doing, doing this setup stuff. We will start promptly at 10 o'clock. And now we're waiting for Neal. And Ari, and just to let you know, I'm kind of new at this. I'm pretty sure I've got it well enough that I can produce it. It is produced live on Facebook and on YouTube. And after we're finished with this, it will be immediately on Facebook, and over the next 24 hours, it will be on YouTube as well. And here comes Neal. Hi, Neal. Warm greetings. Neal, can you just say something so we can just see what the volume is like?
Sure. Can you guys hear me now?
It's okay. Yeah. All right. Well, listen. I like to start exactly when I say we're going to start. So we've got a few minutes here. Just if you like to informally chat. I've been reading up a little bit on this Facebook campaign that we're going to be talking about, and a good thing. My 94-year-old father-in-law, who is living with us, he's the one who he found this article on Mother Jones, a very interesting article. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's basically about the way that Facebook is, through its algorithms. I think in our discussion, we need to talk about what are algorithms, all right? But through its algorithms, are engaging increasingly in all kinds of forms of censorship. And so, as someone who uses Facebook, I haven't. There's so many different platforms now, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. It's the only one that I use, mostly to get articles from different people. That's been the main thing. Show pictures of my grandson or whatever. So, yeah. How are we doing here? We got 2 minutes. We'll just wait. You were at a demonstration yesterday, Neal. Is that right?
Yes, there was a no war on Iran demonstration just yesterday at the Capitol. We also happened to coincide with a group of folks from Myanmar who were protesting.
Oh, all right. Good. Well, this is a good moment to be out there on the street for no war with Iran. Hopefully we'll see in the next really few days, I would imagine, whether the United States is going to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. So, all right, well, listen, I suppose we could begin a minute early. So this, I guess, friends, this is the formal part of our presentation. My name is Rob Prince. I'm most recently a retired senior lecturer of international studies at the University of Denver Korbel School of International Studies, where both of the people being interviewed spent time and got degrees. The subject that we're going to be dealing with today is a Facebook campaign, which is to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet, but there's a good chance that it will. That to declare Zionism what's referred to as a protected entity, and that has all kinds of consequences that we want to look at. Let me first introduce our guests. Our guests are Ari Harms and Neal Feldman. They are both members of Jewish Voice for Peace, its Denver Boulder chapter. I'll tell you a little bit more about them. Ari is one of the leaders of Jewish Voice for Peace here in the Denver Boulder area. She's also an active member of Denver DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, as well as worked with several activist groups in this area. She has a Master's of International Human Rights from the University of Denver and performs drag in Denver under the name of Simon Paul. Neal Feldman, most recently graduated from the Center of Arabic Study Abroad. He was a fellow there in 2019, 2020. He got his master's degree from the Middle East North Africa Studies program at the University of Arizona in 2019. And he got his BA in International Studies, Gender and Women's Studies at the University of Denver in 2015. So for starters, welcome to you both. It's a pleasure to have you. Look forward to your comments. Okay, let me just say a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. Facebook policy that would consider a critique of Zionism as a proxy for a critique of Jews and Judaism, and the implementation of the International Human Rights Association definition of anti-Semitism is obviously skewed and being weaponized and instrumentalized against Palestinian organizers globally. We are trying to prevent it from becoming Facebook policy. The Israeli government and some of its supporters are asking Facebook to add Zionist as a protected category in its hate speech policy. That is to treat Zionist as a proxy for Jew or Judaism. And as the Jewish Voice of Peace website states, Facebook, we need to talk. If you're not letting us, and you're not letting us, so we're launching a campaign to make sure that you do. Okay, let's start in. Whoever wants to open this up, can you talk about why Jewish Voice for Peace has initiated this campaign targeting Facebook? Either one, doesn't matter.
I can touch on that. I think the main reasons behind why JVP is doing this and our chapter is participating is because it's dangerous to equate Zionism with anti-Semitism, because it's a debate around ideology, and summing up ideology to hate speech is dangerous because it silences voices and people who are being oppressed by the Zionism. And Palestinians have two words. In Arabic, they have Zahyuni, which means Zionist. And they also have Yehudi, which means Jewish. And to take away their power to use that word, Zionist in Arabic, will take away the nuance that they are able to have to be able to name their oppressor for what they are, instead of being forced to equate them with Judaism. And it allows them to criticize an ideology and not a group of people. And censoring the word Zionist will take that away from Palestinians, and not being able to criticize their oppressor. And it also excludes Jews of color from talking against Zionism, because as we have seen, the algorithms do discriminate against people of color in general. I know a lot of people who have been, banned from Facebook for a few days for using the word white without any sort of asterisk or alternative spelling. So people of color already face the algorithm discrimination discrimination, and this will increase it, especially for Jews of color when they want to criticize Zionism as well.
All right. Neal, could you maybe, I know that many of the listeners are aware of this, but maybe not all of them. What's the difference between Zionism and Judaism?
Sure. I know as a Jew who grew up in a Zionist community, I know that unlearning this doctrine of Zionism is something that's a huge thing for us. Zionism being the liberation movement that became a settler colonial movement to exclude Palestinians. So it's a project that advocates for the settlement of Jewish people in what is historic Palestine, and that necessarily excludes and marginalizes Palestinians. And we're talking about something totally different from anti-Semitism, which of course is a form of discrimination against Jews as Jews, which is definitely something that we in JVP are speaking out against in its own right. But it makes it quite hard when people understand anti-Semitism to not just be discrimination against Jews, but also to be the same thing as a critique of Zionism and the state of Israel, rather than Jews as a people, as a group of individuals.
It's gotten, and it's nothing new, by the way. But the notion of equating Zionism with Judaism, that has been, in terms of creating, if you like, a narrative, one of the key elements of Zionism. It's not simply a national movement, but it, according to Zionists, but accepted far more broadly, it's basically Zionism and Judaism are interchangeable. So I think the first point that we want to make is they're not. I was talking to somebody yesterday, an organizer, a young Jewish organizer. I was really surprised what she had to say. She said she grew up in a home where there wasn't criticism of Israel, but where Israel was just not a factor. It just wasn't, and that it was a non-Zionist approach to being Jewish. And in fact, the way that she put it was the home of American Jews was Flatbush Avenue, which I thought was I just thought it was kind of funny. But the point here is this is one of the problems that Jewish progressives, and of which I'm like to believe I'm one, have had to deal with for a long time, to try to separate the two, to understand that Zionism is if you like, a national movement, and as Neal put it, I think quite accurately, it's a settler colonial movement, a form of settler colonialism, and that Judaism is the religion. I do want to just generally ask you, do you see a time when Judaism worldwide, but certainly here in the United States, can be de-Zionized? Either of you want to deal with that?
I mean, I certainly hope so, because, for decades, this has been the, pro-Israel lobby's approach, is to equate the two. And we've seen that doesn't stop real anti-Semitism. We saw people storm the Capitol, and some of them had Camp Auschwitz shirts, and 6 million wasn't enough shirts. So clearly the decades worth of cracking down on this, quote unquote anti-Semitism on the left through pro-Palestine activists hasn't squashed the rise of real anti-Semitism. So I certainly hope for our safety, especially, that we can de-Zionize Judaism.
Okay, Neal, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think, Ari, that you put it well. Although I also think this is definitely an area of work that JVP is very invested in general. Is we know that more and more we can create a future for Jewish life that critiques Israel and that doesn't support or tacitly or overtly the Zionist project being wielded against the Palestinians.
Okay. Just before we came on the air, it was an email because I don't tweet. I don't know how to tweet. I don't know how to read tweets or anything. But it came from my former colleague. Maybe some of you had him as a Prof. Nader Hashemi. And he tweeted about that Cornel West has been denied tenure at Harvard University, the great Black civil rights leader. And Cornel West's comment is that Harvard was, quote, influenced by his outspoken criticisms of Israel's treatment of Palestinians. This is not the first professor at the university level that has been denied tenure. There's a whole litany of them, Norman Finkelstein being another very famous case, but there are others. So I find it rather curious. Here's a Black, nationally, if not internationally known, human rights advocate who his whole life has centered around fighting racism against black people, certainly primarily, but connects through his anti-racist struggles to sympathy with the Palestinians. And this anti-racist fighter and intellectual loses his tenure, basically being accused, because if you're being accused of anti-Semitism, you're being accused of racism. Curious, is it not?
Yeah, it's also.
What do you make of it?
I mean, I think it's heartbreaking, honestly. It's dangerous to silence speech like that, especially from the Black community and the Black activist community, who are already targeted. And I don't know what to say other than it's heartbreaking, and I hope that we can fight to change it.
Neal, you want to add anything?
Sure. I wanted to say too how this campaign plugs into kind of trying to fight this injustice that you just spoke of. So when we're really advocating for open discussion and candid dialogue on social media about what Zionism is, what Israel is, and what it does, especially I think so that we can talk about human rights abuses. We can talk as Jews and as Palestinians about the real forces that are shaping the oppression in Israel, Palestine. So I think that if we don't have these spaces to be able to speak freely and talk about these nuanced issues, then it creates a culture where we see more of this kind of repression, similarly to that has happened to folks like Norman Finkelstein and Stephen Salida and so many others.
Yes, Salida, right. Yes, I remember that case too. Well, let's talk about this Facebook campaign specifically. Can you explain to the listeners in the audience what is within the Facebook context a protected party or protected element?
So from my understanding, it's basically words that they flag as contributing to hate speech. So that's why when people of color use the word white, or I know, I think Nazi and fascist are on there as well. There's a few others that they try and flag because they are afraid people are using those words as part of hate speech, and so they flag them. The algorithm flags them and incorrectly
cuts the entry, right?
Yeah.
So there's no context here. For example, if you're talking about something that's happening among white people, It could have nothing to do, in fact, with racial question, or white nationalists or whatever. But still, that would be flagged, correct?
Right.
And by flagged, we mean that whoever was posting that post would be eliminated, and possibly the person would be put, I think they call it, in Facebook jail.
Yeah.
Right? Where I've spent a fair amount of time late. To my utter surprise. All right. So in this case, are they basically saying that you can't use the term Zionism? Is that what they're asking? Or you can't use the term anti-Zionism on Facebook? That would be a no-no, Neal?
I do think that critique of Zionism would be something that would be flagged, and that generally that the word Zionism is thought of as a proxy for Jews or Judaism, in a way that people would be punished in various ways on social media for speaking about Zionism. So I think their idea is to try to equate both terms so that it's hard to really talk about Jews that oppose the Zionist movement, or many other things.
Ari, do we know how far along is this request on the part of the Israeli government and its American supporters to make Zionism a protected entity? Where is it at? Do we know?
As far as I know, so the Israeli government has asked Facebook to consider it, and Facebook has said they have not implemented it as of yet, but that is why we're delivering the petition and have the petition nationally going on.
Can you talk about this petition, both the national aspect of it and what JVP is doing here in Colorado?
Sure. So the campaign is a global one. So this petition has been something that's been launched by a large coalition that includes JVP and a number of other partners, such as If Not Now, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign.
Excuse me. Yeah. If Not Now, am I not mistaken that's a Jewish group critical of Israel? If I recall, out of Chicago, but I don't remember. It's been around for a bit. Yeah. What other organizations are involved? Some of them?
Independent Jewish Voices in Canada is kind of the JVP in Canada, and the Palestine Solidarity Campaign in the UK. A number of others. There's more than I could list.
What about the American Civil Liberties Union, freedom of speech group like that? Are they involved, or do we know?
I'm not sure exactly if a group like ACLU is a part of it. But the campaign, or the petition that's launched by this large coalition, is being shared among folks across the world, such as like in Dublin and England and London and even Johannesburg. Wow. And so they've surpassed the 50,000 signatures, and the petition is targeting Sheryl Sandberg, one of the big decision makers in Facebook, to of course not implement this particular hate speech policy.
And here in Colorado, you have specific activities that you're engaged in. Can you talk about those, Ari?
Sure.
Yeah. So we are planning. Facebook doesn't have much of an office here because it's under renovation, but we're planning to deliver the petition to them, to the local offices in person, and publicizing that, and then hopefully, JVP National is going to put all of the days of action together from local chapters and combine them all and make a video and photos with everything that's going on. So.
For people here in Colorado, or actually, frankly, for anybody on Facebook, how can they, if they're interested in this, and I hope they are, How can they participate in this campaign? Where do they get? Where can they get the information about signing the petition, etc.?
Sure. The petition itself is on Facebook. We need to talk.org. That's the national website, and you can go there to sign the petition. If you want to get involved locally, you can also email us at denverboulder@jewishvoiceforpeace.com. And it's all just 2 words together, Denver Boulder. And Facebook page too. So.
Okay, well, I hope that some of the listeners participate in this. I did sign the petition, and I'm pretty sure a number of my family members have also, and friends. So good luck on this campaign. I think it's an important campaign. I keep thinking about this now without getting into it too often, having had a certain history with this issue going back a ways. I've heard rather odd things, so being called self-hating, which I still don't understand what that means, on 3 occasions, maybe more, including at the University of Denver Corbell. Local delegations of prominent Jews, including liberal rabbis, have gone to my workplace and asked that I be fired because of my activity. So I mentioned, and okay, it hasn't happened for a while, all right, but that was par for the course, all right, in the past. At the same time, and other friends, Jewish friends who had been involved in Palestinian solidarity in the 70s and 80s, we experienced more or less the same kind of stuff. But what I would say about it is it was informal, okay? It did not go to the level of the law. And that's what in the last decade we've noticed. Actual laws against the boycott, divestment, and sanction campaigns in a number of states, right? And policies that specifically in the corporate sector, and here we're talking about Facebook among others, prevent people from publicly criticizing Israel for its policies of the Palestinians. So I'm just wondering, as 2 activists that have pretty knowledgeable in this stuff, how do you explain it? Why did it become so formal? Why did it become against the law to criticize Israel? Do you have any sense of why or how this has evolved?
I think it's because of the strong presence that the pro-Israel lobby has in our government, which trickles down to state and local governments as well. We saw here in Colorado a few years back at the state level passed a law that said that para had to divest from any groups, BDS, which we tried to lobby against on the state level. We had some success, 10 no votes, but it did ultimately pass.
It passed, but as I recall, it gave the PERA border administration the right to reject doing this based on financial considerations. So it wasn't. But yes, you have in principle the state retirement fund, and not just here in Colorado. It was a national campaign that went on to try to silence protests. That's pretty heavy when you think about it. Yeah. Okay. You want to add anything, Neal?
Sure. I remember as a chapter of JVP that we had been doing some work against this particular law. I think that the folks in the Federation locally, we're trying to really fast track it through the legislature. So I think this is part of how it's been evolving. That we've seen that they are increasingly trying to promote backlash against people struggling for Palestinian rights, and this is just one way.
I have this all it is a hypothesis. So I'm testing it with you guys. And it goes like this. On a grassroots level, what might be referred to as the Zionist narrative is much weaker than it was 20 years ago. Certainly when I first got involved in this issue, much weaker. And among the general public, one can talk about the Israeli treatment of Palestinians, the justice of the Palestinian cause, the unfairness, the apartheid-like policies of Israel and how it treats the Palestinians in a much more open way. That is to say that the Zionist narrative has lost some of its potency. And as public sympathy, and in my experience, okay, now I've spoken in the real hotspots of the country on this issue, Nebraska, Kansas, Wyoming, the mountains of Colorado. And what I've noticed is it's not, if you take this discussion, the discussion of Zionism and the Palestinian cause, outside of a narrow framework, the framework being the Jewish community, and also, the Arab community as well, the polarized communities. What I have found is people get it. It's not, honestly, I've been surprised the first time I spoke in Eastern Nebraska and just expected I'd have to, go through all those details and the history. Nonsense. They knew it. And what I saw, and it's really made a big impression on me, is that people call it what you want, use the term heartland of the United States. They get it. All right. They're not ignorant about it. They know the difference between Zionism and anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. They got it all straight. And so then it's at this point where the public is becoming more and more aware that I see this repressive legislation. The playing field has moved. The playing field has moved. It's like the supporters of human rights, and in the end, that's all we're talking about. We're talking about a human rights campaign, have influenced the public, and the way that Israel's more avid supporters, AIPAC or whatever, have responded to that is more repressive legislation. So I'm wondering, does that make sense, or is that just Rob Prince's political fantasy?
No, I think it's accurate. I think that the government, again, because of the Pro-Israel Lobby and AIPAC and Christian Zionist groups even that help them, they have a significant impact on the government, but the regular, masses, quote unquote, can distinguish it, but it's so much pressure on government officials, I feel like, to purport this ideology that Zionism is Judaism.
Neal, what do you think?
I think I want to acknowledge that it's been a long kind of battle for folks involved in this issue that have been pushing back against these kind of forces that you're talking about. Particularly, we're seeing how public opinion is changing towards criticizing Israel, as this is generally the goal of campaigns like BDS and other campaigns worldwide around Palestine.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you want to add about this, your JVP's Facebook campaign that we haven't touched on? Any kind of final word from either of you?
Make sure you sign the petition. Shoot us an email or Facebook message if you'd like to join us. And thank you for having us, Rob.
All right, Neal.
Yes, Rob, thanks for having us. And
It's been a pleasure. Best wishes on this campaign. I'm going to do in my small little way what I can to help it, and as they say, the struggle continues. So take care, and goodbye to all the listeners. This is it. So long.
Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome.
Thank you.